So it's almost midnight and I'm like tired, but I can't sleep. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I did want to mention that I do read your comments. So everybody who's left, encouraging words or comments or keeps up with my story, I really do appreciate it. I have been meaning to reply, but um, just my ADHD brain does not. I don't know. It just hasn't been cooperative. I just don't want you guys to think that I'm being rude. I really appreciate the support. And so, what I wanted to kind of touch on today was I'm still in the same kind of down mood, I guess, despite being on 150 milligrams of zoloft and uh, 20 milligrams of ritallin. Um, and I think I mentioned in a previous video that I have so much going on with my graphic design business and making and selling custom t-shirts, and I'm a full-time college student, and I'm also a mom, and I also help my mom and my sister with their business because they run a like an event planning and decorating business. So I print out like stuff for them, and I just feel that by the end of the week, I'm so burnt out that I don't have the energy to do anything. But I kind of came to a realization last, or yesterday actually, Friday, because I tutored yesterday. So for those of you who don't know, I recently started working as a reading specialist, which is basically a one-on-one home reading tutor. And this is my first like official job. So prior to this, I was just working from home my entire life, selling custom T-shirts and invitations. And when I was a teenager and my mom worked at a 99-cent store, I was there helping her out, like being a cashier and whatnot. But as far as like having an actual being employed by another company, this is actually my first time, and I am 31 years old, so I guess I'm a little late in the game. But my social anxiety and my depression overall, and my disability, which is cerebral palsy, although my cerebral palsy is really mild, I feel like all of those things kind of combined were factors that really held me back from trying to reach my full potential, trying to like apply to places, especially my social anxiety. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is that uh, 5, 10 years ago, I never would have thought that I was brave enough to actually go into another person's home and work. So sit there and tutor, because I just didn't have the confidence and because my social anxiety was so bad. And it's still pretty bad. Don't get me wrong. It's still a struggle. I think that's part of the reason why I'm so burnt out by the end of the week, because of all the constant social interaction that I have to do, in school with my professors and at work with the girl that I'm currently tutoring with her parents and whatnot. But one of the things I noticed is that I have no problem at all whatsoever interacting with children. But when it comes to having a conversation with an adult, like for example, when her mom or her dad um, just casually ask me, how she's doing, or, they want feedback, which is understandable, I will tense, and I'll get tense, I'll freeze up, and it's like an immediate and automatic fight or flight response. My anxiety ramps up to like level 1000 when I'm approached by an adult and I have to have a conversation with them, especially in this instance, because I think that they look to me as the expert. Um, and it's not that I guess in a way, what I have come to realize is I think I don't feel like I'm on the same level as them. I think part of me still feels like a child, like I never really grew up, like incompetent, I guess, in a way. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. It could have been that I was really, really sheltered my entire life, which I was, and partly due to my disability. And so I was never really able to kind of gain that confidence, that self confidence in myself that I can do things that I'm capable. And I know that this is something that I'm trying to work on in therapy, but it's just this feeling like when another adult, especially someone of authority, goes up to me and tries to have a conversation with me, I'll blush, I'll freeze, I will, it's just that automatic response. And I don't know how to get past it. I try my best to ignore it. I'm sure that I come off as nervous when I answer their questions and I tell them that, I can see that their daughter's making progress and she's starting to, in her reading, she's starting to blend the sounds more easily. Um, like I do my best to push past my nervousness to answer the question because obviously I don't want to freeze but on the inside I'm having a really tough time with that. And so I came to realize that that really takes a lot out of me. That feeling. And that's probably part of the reason why I feel so exhausted and burnt out by the time that I'm done with work. And I don't know how to overcome it, but I know that that's like one of the major contributors to my anxiety now. The fact that I feel like a child, when it comes to like interacting with other adults, that I feel that I'm not like quite on their level. And I don't know if there's any way around this. If you guys have experienced this with social anxiety, and it took quite a bit of kind of, um, I guess, self reflection to realize that that's what was going on. Because I kind of sat down with my own thoughts when I got home from work and thought, okay, why was I so nervous? And then that's when I realized it's a pattern. I get this way a lot of the times when I have to approach one of my professors and ask them about it. And don't get me wrong, I will do it. Like my social anxiety is not as bad as it was 5 or 10 years ago. I think I'm slowly making progress. So I'll do what I have to do. If I'm asked a question, I'll talk. If I need help with something, I'm a lot better at advocating for myself now than I was a couple years ago. But the feeling is still there and it's still really, really intense. I remember like about 2 years ago when I was working as a student observer for one of my child development classes at the community college before I transferred to the university that I'm at right now. I was taking a child development course that required me to observe a preschool setting for something like 50 hours, a total of 50 hours. So it was like a couple hours a week for one semester. And at that particular community college, they actually had what they call the Child Development Center on campus, which is like a preschool pretty much, where the students can drop off their kids. And that's where I was doing my observation. And I became really uncomfortable and upset with the way that the teacher, it was a teacher and a teacher assistant. So I was really upset by the way that the teacher was, I guess, interacting with these kids. She had no patience for them whatsoever. She was really quick to snap at them. There was a little boy who peed his pants because she refused to let him go to the bathroom. And I was documenting all this, I was like writing it all down till it got to the point where I felt like I just had to speak up. I was just upset. So I didn't know how to go about doing it because the teacher, she was the one that had to sign off on my timesheets every day so that I could get credit for those hours that I had observed. So in a way, she was in a position of power over me, and she was, I guess, my supervisor, right? And It's like, how do you go against the person who's supposed to be your supervisor when you're just a student observer? But I asked my professor about it at the time, and she said, how would you like us, to approach this issue? She said, we can, do you want to talk to the teacher? Do you just want to switch to a different classroom? And I didn't feel like switching to a different classroom would solve the issue, because what was really bothering me was the treatment that she was giving those kids. And then that would have felt to me like I was just running away from the issue. So, what the professor ultimately recommended was that I talk to the director of the Child Development Center, so like the director of the whole center, and kind of express my concerns. And I did. And he literally told me, if you have a problem with her, I really believe that you need to use direct communication and talk to her directly and tell her what your issues are. In other words, that I had to confront her on my own, that I had to confront her because she was the one that I had a problem, which in a way it makes sense. Because I guess that's what adults do, but at the same time it didn't, because I'm also a student and she was in a position of power over me. So I don't think that was the best advice. But eventually I did gather the courage to stay after class one day, and I approached her and I told her, can we talk? And she, at this point, had already found out about the fact that I had emailed my professor and that I had gone to the director and talked to him about it. And she had already found out what the whole issue was. So she, like, very confrontationally uh came up to my face and said, if you have a problem with me, you need to take it up directly with me. Yeah, I don't need you going around spreading rumors about me. um and I said they weren't rumors. I was just saying stating what I saw. She's like, if you have an issue with my methods, then you ask me about it, and whatnot. And when this was happening, I literally lost balance. Like, my balance is already kind of bad as it is because of the cerebral palsy. But I didn't start experiencing loss of balance when I was standing still up until that point. Like, I fell backwards because my knees locked, and I thankfully there was a chair right behind me, so I sat down, because I felt myself kind of falling backwards. And that's how intense this was. That's how difficult it was for me to confront her, and it was just really bad, And I talked to my therapist about it, and she said that she was proud of me. She felt that I did the right thing, even if I was really nervous, and even if it was visible that I was scared, because I was scared shitless. That was like that whole fight or flight thing, which was, I felt like it was a real threat. And so what I did was, the days or weeks after that, the supervisor or the teacher, was on my case constantly, um, and giving me a hard time about the smallest things while I was observing in her class. I could tell that she just didn't want me in there anymore. So I had to go and request a transfer to a different classroom. And before I could get a transfer, that's around the time when COVID hit and everything went virtual. So I didn't have to go back to the center to deal with that teacher or being transferred to a new classroom, which I guess in a sense is a good thing. But I don't even know where was I going with this. Oh yeah, I was going with this that a couple of years ago I would have never had the courage to stand up to like another adult in that way, the way that I did. Um, so that's how I know I've progressed a lot as far as my social anxiety, but it's still a very real, very debilitating fear that really affects my life. Just feeling incompetent, feeling like I'm not on every other adult's level. If you guys have dealt with this, or if this sounds familiar, let me know down below, and kind of how you have ways that you have found to cope, or um, other, I guess, suggestions. And that's it for now.